watched me struggle for 3 years to test my loyalty. But finding his secret $4 million bank account just turned his little game into my personal revenge tour. I need you to understand the level of cheap this man pretended to be. We met in college, and Ethan was the quiet guy who always seemed to be drowning in bills. I fell in love with his soul, not his wallet, and he made sure to test that theory every single day. For 3 years, I lived in a state of constant financial anxiety. Ethan lived in a tiny studio apartment, drove a beat-up 2005 Honda that sounded like a lawnmower, and insisted we split the bill for every single McDonald's meal. I'm talking about splitting the cost of a 10-piece nugget. He told me he was buried under a mountain of student debt, so I stepped up. I worked 2 jobs. I paid 70% of our rent. I skipped buying new clothes for years so he could afford his textbooks. The lowest point was when I sold my grandmother's vintage ring, the only heirloom I had, just to pay for his car repairs because he looked at me with those sad puppy eyes and said, "Once I make it, babe, we'll have everything." It turns out we already had everything. He just didn't want to share it with me. 2 days ago, the facade cracked. Ethan was in the shower and his phone buzzed on the bathroom counter. It wasn't a text from his mom or a bill collector. It was a notification from a luxury concierge service in Dubai confirming a reservation. My stomach dropped. My first thought was that he was cheating. I went into his gym bag looking for clues and found a hidden compartment I'd never noticed before. Inside, there wasn't a burner phone or love letters. It was a passport. But not just any passport. It was filled with stamps from Switzerland, Dubai, and Singapore. And right underneath that was a bank statement. I literally had to sit on the floor because my knees gave out. The balance wasn't negative. It was $4.2 million. I sat there shaking, staring at that number. All those nights I cried myself to sleep because we couldn't afford a nice anniversary dinner. All those times I worked double shifts on my feet while he stayed home to study. It was all a sick game. He wasn't broke. He was rich, and he was watching me struggle like a lab rat in a maze. He wanted to see if I was a gold digger. He wanted to see how much suffering I would endure for him. Well, the joke is on him. I'm not a gold digger, but I am a debt collector, and he owes me 3 years of my life back with interest. I didn't confront him right then. I put the statement back, but I kept the black Amex card I found in the stack. I waited until he left for his entry-level marketing job, which I now realized was a total lie. He probably owns the firm. And I went to work. I headed straight to the luxury mall. I walked into Chanel and bought the bag I've been eyeing for years but never dared to ask for. Then I went and bought a Rolex. Then I booked a first-class ticket to Paris for a solo trip. I spent $50,000 in about 2 hours. Every time I swiped that heavy metal card, I felt a rush of pure justice. I knew he would get the notifications. About 10 minutes after the Rolex purchase, my phone blew up. It was Ethan. He sounded completely panicked, asking if I'd seen a credit card lying around. This was the best part. I played completely dumb. I said, "Oh my God, honey, yes! I found this card in your bag. I thought you finally got that big promotion you were talking about. I'm so proud of us, I wanted to celebrate." You should have heard the silence on the other end of the line. He was trapped. He couldn't tell me the card was a secret without admitting he'd been lying to my face for 3 years. He couldn't scream at me for spending money that he claimed he didn't have. He had to sit there at his fake desk and watch me spend his hard-earned money while sweating through his cheap suit. He couldn't say a word. But honestly, the 50 grand was just the appetizer. The main course is coming up this weekend. We're going to his sister's wedding. His whole family thinks he's the broke black sheep who can barely pay rent. I plan on making a very loud, very public toast about his incredible financial success and his multi-million-dollar empire. If he wants a loyalty test, I'm about to give him a final exam he will never forget. The look on Ethan's face when I showed up to his sister's wedding in a $10,000 gown was priceless, but the real explosion happened when I stood up to give a toast and accidentally projected his bank statements on the big screen. You have to understand the level of deception I had been dealing with for 3 years. Ethan had played the struggling artist role to perfection. We lived in a tiny, drafty studio apartment. We ate generic brand cereal. I worked overtime constantly to cover our rent and bills because he always claimed he was short on cash or that his freelance payments were late. I carried us. I stressed for us. I sacrificed for us. So when the invitation for his sister's wedding came, the whole family played the "we are struggling" card hard. They told me it was going to be a budget backyard affair, very low-key, potluck style. They really wanted to lower my expectations. But something felt off. I started doing some digging. I'm a paralegal, so I know how to find things. And what I found made my blood run cold. His sister wasn't a waitress struggling to make ends meet. She was a trust fund baby living in a penthouse downtown. The backyard wedding was actually at a sprawling estate owned by the family trust. The whole family was in on this sick little game. They called it a loyalty test. They wanted to see if I was worthy of their bloodline, if I would stick by Ethan through the poverty before they revealed the millions. I decided to give them a reveal of my own. I bought a designer gown using the emergency credit card Ethan thought I didn't know about, the one attached to his real accounts. When I walked into that reception, heads turned, but I played it cool. I smiled like an angel. I waited for the speeches. When it was my turn, I took the microphone and tapped the glass for attention. I said I wanted to toast to Ethan. I looked him dead in the eye and told the room that for 3 years, he taught me the value of $1 by making me pay for everything while he sat on $4 million. The room went dead silent. That is when I hit play on the slideshow I had connected to the projector. Everyone was expecting cute couple photos. Instead, up popped high-resolution screenshots of his Swiss bank accounts. Then came the photos of his private villa in Dubai. But the kicker, the thing that made the guests audibly gasp, was the series of text messages between him and his mother. They were laughing about how cheap I was for buying off-brand pasta, and how pathetic I looked stressing over electric bills. Ethan turned bright red and tried to scramble over the table to grab the laptop, But I was way ahead of him. I had already hit send on a mass email containing a link to the entire folder of evidence to every single person in his contact list, including his business partners. I whispered into the mic that the test was over, and that he had failed. Then I dropped the mic and walked out. You would think that was the end of it, but Ethan actually tried to sue me. He tried to claim I stole from him by using his card for the dress and for my lawyer. He forgot that I keep receipts for everything. I had 3 years of bank statements showing I paid his rent, his food, and his bills. I had proof that he coerced me into paying his expenses under false pretenses. He tried to play the victim in mediation, saying he just wanted to know I loved him for him and not his money. I looked him in the face and told him that love doesn't watch the person they care about go hungry while they have millions in the bank. That isn't a test. That is emotional abuse. Because I had such solid proof of his manipulation, my lawyer, who I also paid with Ethan's Amex, filed for a massive settlement. I didn't want his millions. I just wanted exactly what I spent on him plus interest, and a very large pain and suffering fee. The court granted me a hefty sum. I moved out of our studio and into a luxury condo of my own. Ethan's reputation in the tech world is completely ruined because it turns out investors don't like trusting a CEO who fakes poverty to manipulate women. I am currently recording this while sipping champagne in Paris on filed for a massive settlement. I didn't want his millions. I just wanted exactly what I spent on him plus interest, and a very large pain and suffering fee. The court granted me a hefty sum. I moved out of our studio and into a luxury condo of my own. Ethan's reputation in the tech world is completely ruined because it turns out investors don't like trusting a CEO who fakes poverty to manipulate women. I am currently recording this while sipping champagne in Paris on a trip that, technically,